The global economy restructured overnight. Resources were redirected. Unnecessary spending stopped. Every credit, every resource was now focused on a single goal: preparing for the inevitable conflict. Space research facilities worked at maximum capacity. New propulsion systems were developed. Communication technologies were enhanced. Spacecraft design reached levels of complexity that seemed almost impossible just months before. Training became intense and comprehensive. Virtual reality simulations allowed soldiers to experience countless combat scenarios. Every human learned basic defensive and offensive skills. Age was no longer a limitation. Preparation was universal. Psychological training became as important as physical preparation. Understanding alien psychology, developing communication strategies, learning to predict and counter potential threats, these became critical skills. Satellite networks were reinforced. Communication systems became nearly impossible to interrupt. A global network emerged that could coordinate human efforts with unprecedented speed and accuracy. Medical facilities prepared for potential casualties. New treatment technologies were developed. Artificial organ production increased. Recovery systems were enhanced to support potential wounded personnel. As days passed, the transformation became complete. Humanity was no longer a collection of individual nations. They had become a single, unified force. Everything was prepared, everything was focused. Jae-won Kim looked at the final preparation reports. They were ready. Not just ready to defend, but ready to do something more. Ready to prove their worth in the universe. The mobilization was complete. Humanity waited, watched, prepared. The Galactic Confederation had no idea what was coming. The first strike came without warning. Commander Jae-won Kim stood on the bridge of the flagship Destiny, his eyes fixed on the holographic displays that showed multiple attack points. Across different star systems, human fleets moved like shadows through space. Silent, precise, deadly. The Orion Nexus was their primary target. This critical alien communication hub had controlled galactic information flow for centuries. No one expected humans to attack it directly. Specialized teams had spent months infiltrating alien communication networks. They understood every weakness, every potential vulnerability. Now those months of preparation would pay off. The first wave of attacks happened simultaneously across 6 different star systems. Quantum communication systems allowed perfect synchronization. Where traditional militaries would struggle with such coordination, humans excelled. Advanced AI systems targeted specific alien infrastructure points. Communication towers collapsed. Defense networks went dark. Alien commanders found themselves suddenly blind and disconnected. Each human spacecraft carried multiple adaptive weapon systems. These weren't just traditional weapons. They were intelligent platforms that could change tactics mid-battle. If one approach failed, they would instantly calculate and execute a new strategy. Psychological warfare played a critical role. Human communication broadcasts confused alien defensive systems. False signals, misdirection, complete information, chaos. The alien forces used to predictable conflict patterns found themselves completely overwhelmed. Their defensive strategies, developed over thousands of years, collapsed within minutes. At the Orion Nexus, human special forces infiltrated the main communication center. They didn't just disable systems, they reprogrammed them. Turning the aliens' own infrastructure against them became a primary strategy. Commander Kim watched as initial reports came in. The success was beyond their most optimistic predictions. Alien defensive networks were crumbling faster than anyone. Had anticipated, Yoonji Choi's adaptive AI systems worked perfectly. Each alien counterattack was predicted and neutralized before it could fully develop. The human technological advantage was becoming clear. Space battles looked unlike anything in galactic history. Human ships moved with an unpredictability that confused alien targeting systems. They weren't just fighting, they were rewriting the entire concept of space warfare. Alien military leaders began to panic. Their long-held belief in their technological superiority was collapsing. Humans weren't just fighting back. They were dominating. Communication intercepts revealed growing confusion among alien military ranks. Their command structures, built on centuries of controlled conflict, couldn't adapt to human strategies. Every human soldier understood the mission. Every pilot, every ground team member knew exactly what was at stake. Their training, their preparation, their entire cultural resolve was focused on a single goal. The first strikes weren't just military operations. They were a statement. Humanity was declaring its presence in the galaxy. No longer would they be controlled or limited. Quantum communication systems allowed perfect coordination. What would have taken traditional militaries months of planning happened in hours. Each strike was calculated, precise, and devastating. Alien colonies began receiving reports of complete system failures. Defense networks collapsed. Communication channels went dark. The psychological impact was as significant as the physical destruction. Commander Kim allowed himself a small smile. The initial attacks had exceeded all expectations. Humanity had not just fought back, they had completely transformed the concept of interstellar conflict. The Galactic Confederation would never be the same. Their controlled, predictable universe had just been shattered. As reports continued to stream in, one thing became abso. The alien leadership realized they had underestimated humanity. What began as a confident defense had turned into a desperate retreat. Commander Jae-won Kim understood that this moment would define their entire species' future. Special operation teams moved like ghosts through alien territories. They weren't just soldiers, they were technological phantoms that could infiltrate any system, disable any defense. Each team member carried advanced equipment that could transform battle strategies in seconds. President Hee-soo Park managed the war from a mobile command center that could relocate faster than enemy tracking systems could predict. Her strategic decisions came like lightning, quick, precise, unexpected. Alien communication networks began to collapse. Their long-established intelligence systems couldn't understand human unpredictability. Where traditional military forces followed strict protocols, humans adapted instantly. Yoonji Choi's adaptive AI systems had become the true weapon. They learned faster than any biological intelligence. Each alien counterattack was predicted and neutralized before it could fully develop. The psychological impact was devastating. Alien military units found their communication systems compromised. Their defensive strategies became useless. Entire fleets were left confused, unable to coordinate basic defensive maneuvers. Quantum communication technologies allowed human forces to share information instantaneously. What would have taken traditional militaries months happened in moments. Each strategic move was calculated with mathematical precision. Alien colonies started receiving reports of complete system failures. Defense networks crumbled. Communication channels went silent. The psychological destruction was as significant as physical combat. Human technological innovations appeared almost magical to alien observers. Adaptive armor that could change molecular structure, weapon systems that could predict and counter attacks before they happened, transportation technologies that defied previous understanding of physics. The Galactic Confederation's leadership began to fracture. Their millennia-old hierarchical structure couldn't handle the rapid human assault. Disagreements emerged. Trust collapsed. Internal conflicts weakened their defensive capabilities. Military commanders who had previously dismissed humans now watched in terror. Every conventional strategy they understood was being rewritten. Humanity wasn't just fighting, they were revolutionizing the entire concept of interstellar conflict. Diplomatic channels that once controlled human expansion now became conduits of complete alien confusion. Each communication revealed more human, strategic depth. The aliens realized they were facing something entirely unexpected. Training facilities on Earth continued producing soldiers who were more than traditional fighters. They were adaptive thinkers. Each soldier understood technological systems, could read complex strategic maps, and make instant decisions. Space battles transformed from traditional engagements to complex, three-dimensional chess matches. Human. Ships moved with an unpredictability that completely overwhelmed alien targeting systems. They weren't just fighting, they were demonstrating a new form of technological warfare. Intercepted alien communications revealed growing panic. Their technological superiority, something they had believed absolute for thousands of years, was completely dismantled. Humans had not just matched their technology, they had surpassed it. Commander Kim understood this was more than a military conflict. This was a civilizational statement. Humanity was declaring its right to exist, to expand, to determine its own future. Each successful mission added to human confidence. Soldiers who months ago were ordinary citizens now operated with the precision of advanced military units. Their training, their preparation, their cultural resolve became their most powerful weapon. The tide was turning, and everyone, humans and aliens alike, could feel it. Alien leadership began serious discussions about potential surrender. Their centuries of controlled galactic politics were collapsing. Humanity had changed everything. President Park watched the developing situation. She knew this was more than a war. This was humanity's moment of transformation. No longer would they be a controlled, limited species. They were writing a new chapter in galactic history, and they were doing it on their own terms. The tide had turned, completely and utterly. The final assault began with a silence that felt more powerful than any weapon. Commander Jaewon Kim watched as human fleets positioned themselves around the central governance systems of the alien confederation. Years of preparation had led to this moment. Every technological innovation, every strategic calculation, every single human effort was now focused on a single objective. Complete victory. Yoonji Choi's adaptive AI systems worked at speeds beyond human comprehension. They attacked alien defensive networks like a swarm of intelligent machines, finding and exploiting every possible weakness. What would have taken traditional militaries years happened in hours. The alien leadership realized too late that they had completely misjudged humanity. Their centuries of technological superiority crumbled in moments. Human forces moved with a precision and adaptability that seemed almost supernatural. President Hee-soo Park watched from the command ship. Her eyes reflected the holographic displays showing multiple attack points. Each movement was calculated, each strategy designed to dismantle the alien power structure completely. Specialized human teams infiltrated critical alien infrastructure. They didn't just disable systems, they reprogrammed them. Turning the aliens' own technology against them became a primary strategy. Communication networks collapsed. Defense systems turned against their creators. Space became a battlefield unlike anything in galactic history. Human ships moved with an unpredictability that confused alien targeting systems. They weren't just fighting, they were rewriting the entire concept of interstellar conflict. Quantum communication technologies allowed perfect coordination. Each human unit understood its role with absolute clarity. There was no confusion, no hesitation. Every soldier, every pilot knew exactly what needed to be done. The psychological impact was as devastating as the physical assault. Alien military units found themselves completely isolated. Their communication systems compromised, their defensive strategies useless. Entire fleets were left confused, unable to coordinate basic defensive maneuvers. Intercepted communications revealed growing panic among alien leadership. Their millennia-old systems of control were collapsing faster than they could comprehend. Humanity was not just fighting back. They were fundamentally changing the galactic power structure. Specialized weapon systems developed in secret research facilities now proved their worth. Adaptive armor that could change molecular structure. Weapon platforms that could predict and counter attacks before they happened. Technologies that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The final assault targeted the core governance systems. Human forces moved with a precision that seemed almost impossible. Each attack was calculated, each movement designed to completely dismantle the alien power structure. Alien colonies began receiving reports of complete system failures. Defense networks crumbled. Communication channels went silent. The psychological Destruction was as significant as the physical combat. Commander Kim watched as the final strategic points fell. What had begun as a defensive action had transformed into a complete reshaping of galactic politics. Humanity was no longer asking for permission to exist. President Park's final communication to the alien leadership was simple and direct. Surrender was the only option, complete and unconditional. The battle lasted less than 72 hours, but its impact would be felt for generations. As the final alien defensive systems collapsed, a new reality emerged. Humanity had not just won a war, they had transformed the entire concept of interstellar existence. The new Galactic Accord was signed with humanity as the primary architects. No longer would they be controlled or limited. They would define their own future. Alien diplomatic representatives watched in shock as human representatives outlined the new galactic order. There would be no negotiations, no compromises. Commander Kim looked at President Park. A small smile crossed her face. They both understood what had just happened. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same. The war was over. Humanity had won. Completely and utterly, lutely clear. Humanity was no longer asking for permission to exist. They were taking their place in the universe. The first strikes were complete, and this was just the beginning. The silence in the global conference hall was thick with tension. President Hee-Soo Park stood at the center, her dark eyes scanning the holographic displays that showed the recent destruction of the Proxima colony. Thousands of human lives had been erased in a moment of calculated alien aggression. The Galactic Confederation representatives shifted uncomfortably. Their translucent screens flickered with data, but none could meet the president's direct gaze. For decades, humanity had been treated like a junior species, tolerated but never truly respected. Jae-won Kim, the military commander standing beside her, clenched his fist. His military jacket was crisp, decorated with minimal but significant medals that told a story of patience and restraint. No more. The attack on Proxima wasn't just an incident. It was a deliberate message. The alien delegation, led by a tall crystalline being named Kiro Vex, believed they could continue their centuries-long manipulation of human expansion. They were wrong. President Park's datapad showed the brutal statistics. 3,142 civilians. Men, women, children. Colonists who had left Earth with dreams of building a new world, reduced to nothing more than statistical casualties in a cosmic game of political control. 317 official diplomatic communications, she began, her voice calm but loaded with controlled anger. 17 peace conferences, 42 joint committee meetings, and yet here we are. The holographic screens around the hall began displaying images, burning colony structures, destroyed infrastructure, bodies of humans scattered like broken dolls across a landscape that was supposed to be their new home. Kiro Vex attempted to interrupt. President Park, we can explain. She raised her hand. A simple gesture that silenced the entire hall. Explanation. Time is over, she said. Each word was measured, precise. You have systematically blocked our colony applications. You have manipulated trade regulations. You have repeatedly used your influence to limit human expansion. Yoonji Choi, the chief strategic advisor, stepped forward. Her tablet displayed complex graphs, showing decades of diplomatic restrictions imposed on humanity. Economic chokeholds, territorial limitations, technological embargoes. The Galactic Confederation had believed they could control humanity. Keep them contained. Manage their growth like farmers managing young crops. They were about to learn how wrong they were. President Park's next words would change everything. The Proxima Colony massacre is not just an attack. It is a declaration of war against human existence. Some alien delegates leaned forward. Others seemed to shrink in their seats. The human delegation remained perfectly still. We have been patient, she continued. We have followed your rules. We have participated in your processes. We have respected your institutions. But today, that ends. The room temperature seemed to drop. Military personnel around the hall straightened their postures. Years of suppressed potential began to vibrate with anticipation. Jae-won Kim's tablet displayed initial mobilization protocols. Factories would convert. Research centers would shift. Every human resource would be transformed into a weapon. Kiro Vex tried one last diplomatic approach. "President, surely we can discuss—" "No more discussions," Park interrupted. Her voice was final. "Humanity will no longer ask for permission to exist. We will no longer wait for approval. We will expand. We will defend ourselves. And we will do so with every resource at our disposal." The holographic displays changed. Industrial complexes flickered to life. Shipyards began showing massive construction initiatives. Military training simulations activated across multiple screens. This was more than a response to an attack. This was a complete systemic transformation. In that moment, the Galactic Confederation realized they had miscalculated. Humanity was not a species to be controlled. They were a force waiting to be unleashed. President Hee-soo Park looked directly at Kiro Vex. "War begins now." The hall went silent. But it was the silence of a storm about to break. The silence of a species ready to prove its worth. The silence before humanity would change everything. The day after President Park's declaration, Earth transformed. Every computer, every factory, every resource became a potential weapon. Jae-won Kim stood in the Central Command Center, watching, screens that showed a nation moving with unprecedented speed and purpose. Industrial complexes that once produced consumer goods now churned out military equipment. Automobile factories retooled to create armored personnel carriers within hours. Technology companies redirected their most brilliant minds toward developing advanced combat systems. Yoonji Choi worked tirelessly, her fingers dancing across multiple, holographic interfaces. She had developed a revolutionary adaptive algorithm that could predict and counter alien strategic movements. The system was unlike anything the Galactic Confederation had ever encountered. Universities emptied their research labs. Scientists who once studied peaceful technologies now focused on military innovations. Young researchers worked around the clock, fueled by a mixture of patriotism and pure scientific excitement. In every major city, training centers opened. People who had never considered military service now volunteered with enthusiasm. Grandparents, college students, professionals, everyone wanted to contribute. The entire human population began to move like a single, coordinated organism. Manufacturing centers ran non-stop. Shipyards that had been mostly idle suddenly became hubs of intense activity. Massive spacecraft began taking shape, sleek, deadly, designed with a level of innovation that defied previous technological limitations. Quantum computers processed combat scenarios faster than ever before. Each simulation revealed new strategies, new possibilities. The human capacity for adaptation became their greatest weapon. Military equipment stockpiles grew exponentially. Weapons that combined artificial intelligence with advanced materials, science emerged from secret research facilities. Protective suits that could withstand extreme environments were developed in weeks instead of years. Communication networks transformed. Every satellite, every communication channel was optimized for potential conflict. A global system emerged that could coordinate human efforts with unprecedented efficiency. Jae-won Kim reviewed the initial reports. Production had increased by 500% in just 3 days. Recruitment centers were overwhelmed with volunteers. The entire planet seemed to pulse with a single heartbeat of determination. Agricultural centers shifted to support the war effort. Food production was streamlined with every calorie calculated for maximum efficiency. Nutrition programs ensured that every human would be prepared for potential conflict. Yoonji Choi's most significant breakthrough came in adaptive AI systems. These weren't just computer programs. They were learning entities that could predict and counter alien strategies in real time. Each simulation made the system more intelligent, more dangerous.